Hey, welcome everybody. Thank you guys so much for being here. This is the live office hours for the School of Sweet Georgia. My name is Felicia from Sweet Georgia and also the School of Sweet Georgia. And this is a moment that we get together once a month, every month, to talk about what's been going on behind the scenes at the School of Sweet Georgia and to sort of catch you up on all the things that have been going on. Welcome. Thank you guys so much for being here today. I know that some of you will be possibly new members. I know we get a lot of new members coming into the school around August and September and things like that because we have a back to school time. And that's very, very exciting. So if this is your first time joining us for the live office hours, thank you so much for being here. And if you are a longtime member, thank you so much for coming back. This is our chance to sort of catch up on all of the things that have been happening in and around the school. And so we actually I have lots of things on my desk, lots of things to share with you guys, and excited to go through all of these things with you guys. So it's nice to see you guys in the chat here. Thank you so much for being here. So let me show you what I have going on first. So this is sort of the agenda of what we typically go through once a month and just kind of touch on some of the things that have been top of mind for the past couple of weeks since the last time that we got together. Also, we chat about the community, where to find the community, and things like that. And also some of the latest updates inside the school. Those are things like what are the new courses that have launched, what's the new content that's available. And then we also talk a little bit about our upcoming events because we do a number of sort of get togethers throughout the month. And there's lots of different ways to connect with the community, lots of different ways to get together. And so that's when we're going to talk about with the events. And then we have a brief Q&A section. Usually you guys are more than welcome to ask questions during this call. You're more than welcome to put questions into the chat if you like, and I'll try to see if I can follow the chat and answer those as I go. Otherwise, many people will submit questions throughout the month, or sometimes we find questions on the forums, and so we try to answer them there as well. And so we do have a question today from a relatively new member, new weaver, and some things to go through there. And then the biggest part of this session is talking about the things that you have made and sharing your successes and your wins. And so, really, really excited to do that with you all today. So, let's get started. So, first thing top of mind right now is that tomorrow we are going to be going in, like all of Sweet Georgia, the entire team is going to be going in to get set up for Knit City. Knit City, Vancouver is the show that happens. It's like our yarn festival that happens every other year now in Vancouver. So, there's been like a big build up to this time because we didn't have one last year. So, everybody's very, very excited. I know that a few of the members are actually going to be coming um, into Vancouver for the show. So I'm looking forward to meeting any School of Sweet Georgia members in the community. If you are going to be coming to Knit City, Vancouver, I'd be very, very excited to meet you. We are doing a meetup, an SOS meetup at 11 o'clock on the Sunday. We wanted everybody to have their shopping time and all that kind of stuff. It's usually a big flurry of activity on Saturday. But once everybody's kind of like got through all their shopping, seen all the booths, caught up with people. Then on Sunday, we're hoping to have a much more relaxed sort of get together at 11 o'clock on the Sunday in the Sweet Georgia Lounge. So we prepared this big giant lounge space at the show, and that's what we're going to be setting up tomorrow. We're going to be setting up our booth tomorrow as well. And so if you are a member of the school, you may know that Vicky here and also Robin here on the chat. Vicky and Robin are not in Vancouver, and so they are coming into Vancouver for Knit City as well. And so if you're here, you'll be able to meet your fabulous moderators as well at this show. But that is kind of the biggest thing that is top of mind. So once today is done, I'm packing up my circular sock knitting machine. I have 2 table looms here that are going there. I am still dressing a third weaving loom that is supposed to be set up with croquet, but right now it's half threaded. it's going to be done by the time we get to the show. And I think it'll be great. We'll have like the whole 2 days to work on these weaving projects, knitting projects. Oh, we're bringing a flatbed knitting machine. So it's all of this kind of stuff. So it's a very, very exciting weekend, but it's very, very messy as well. But really, really looking forward to all of that. Now, what else has been going on? The other things that we've been talking about this month is that we have been doing a little bit of crepe yarn spinning. So spinning sock yarn structures, spinning 3-ply sock yarn, um, things like that. And so you can see that this is the first. Well, it's one picture of one sock. I'll show you what I have here. I did my crepe yarn spinning. I think I showed you guys before. I have a 3-ply yarn here that I spun from Trifecta Fine. And then I spun also 50 grams of a 3-ply crepe yarn. So they are different yarn structures. You can look up these different yarn structures in Rachel Smith's class. It's called Spinning to Knit Socks or Spin to Knit Socks. And so she goes over how these two different kinds of yarns are constructed. But I wanted to spin them and compare them to see what the difference would be. And honestly, I think that this is the best traditional 3-ply yarn I have spun in forever, like ever. this is this is great. And so I managed to crank a sock on my 60 stitch cylinder with the 3-ply traditional sock yarn. It turned out great. I mean, I have one fabulous sock now. And then my crepe yarn is just the slightest bit heavier. I believe this one ended up being 15 wraps per inch. Yes, 15 wraps per inch in terms of the weight of this yarn. And then my crepe yarn ended up being 13 to 14 wraps per inch. And so it did not fit in my 60 stitch cylinder. And I have some video footage of basically all the stitches falling off. Nothing would crank. It just kept getting just jammed. And it was not a good experience. And so I have to change the cylinder in order to knit a sock with this one. So it's going to be an interesting comparison. I'm going to continue working on this, but this is basically how far I've gotten on that crepe yarn experiment for September. So I'm curious if anybody else is spinning this. I think Vicky might have been spinning some of this as well. Some crepe yarn. I think Greta has also, oh yeah, I have a photo. Greta's done a little bit of comparison as well for different sock yarn structures. And we're just testing some of these things because Socktober is coming up in October and we might want to maybe knit some socks with yarn that we spun ourselves. So that is that part. And then let me show you my, yes, Danielle saying, I just started mine last weekend, my first crepe yarn. Yay. Now, oh yes, okay. So I have more things to say. So yes, the knitting project that I am working on right now is that falling leaves sweater that everybody has been making for the stranded sweater knit along that we've been doing since August. And that is how far my sweater has come. I finished the yoke. The yoke is done, and now I have to continue on with the rest of it. So it is not going to be ready for Knit City. This morning I woke up at 6:30 and I was like, maybe I'll be able to finish that. And then I was like, no, not in one day, probably not. Um, Now you can see on the knitting machine, the flatbed knitting machine, yes, this thing that I'm wearing right now, Meg is asking, did I make this on the LK150? And yes, I did. This is last month we talked about, Barb had suggested making this project called the Easy Folded Poncho. I think I even have a picture of it here. This is what it looks like. This is a church mouse pattern. It's an old church mouse pattern. And it's super, super, super easy to translate into a machine knitted project. So I made this one on the machine and I made a second one that I'm hoping to wear this coming weekend. So you can see on here, this last photo here, this is the one skein of yarn knit all over 110 stitches on the flatbed knitting machine. This is how much one skein can knit. And I calculated it, it's 16,500 stitches in one skein of yarn. Yeah. So I'm actually using that number as a bit of a it's a metric that I'm using for all of my calculations now. So currently on the flatbed knitting machine next to me, I'm making the Lacy Lakes scarf pattern, which is a similar pattern from the machine knitting class, and it is the bias scarf. So it's just you're increasing stitches on one side and decreasing stitches on the other side and making a bias scarf, and I'm knitting that one on the machine right now. And so using that number 16,500 stitches, I know probably how many rows I can knit for one skein of yarn. So this has all been very, very helpful. But that is what I'm working on. And hopefully I'll be able to wear that item on this weekend as well. And the next thing that I wanted to mention is yes, I am working on the waffle weave class that is going to be coming out in 2026 as well. And so we originally were going to have this come out a little bit earlier. We are going to have it come out this winter, but just because with the CSM course launch and Knit City and just a whole bunch of things piling up, it was going to be very, very tight. But it turns out that I will be chaperoning a trip to the Yukon for about 19 teenagers. They're 12 to 15 years old, and I will be the only parent chaperone for these 19 kids for about 10 days in the Yukon in the middle of sort of the forest. And so while they're off doing their daily activities, I plan to sit and write this entire course over the course of 10 days. I have no car, and there's nothing around this place that we're going to. It's literally in the middle of a forest. And yeah, I will be there writing this course, and it will be ready. So that's what I'm going to be doing in part of November. I had little visions of like The Shining and being trapped in the middle of winter in a hotel that's super, super remote. But at the same time, I'm hoping that being around my fabric and talking about weaving and writing about it will hopefully just keep me comfort for those 10 days in the Yukon. I think it'll be great. Now let's talk. Oh, Jennifer, you're in the Yukon? Okay, maybe I'll message you after this. I'm going in the middle of November, November 13 to 22, I think it is. Something like that. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the community. The community at the School of Sweet Georgia. If you've been here for a while, you'll know that this community is absolutely, absolutely amazing. And there's many different ways to connect with the community, but I wanted to mention first about how awesome and amazing this community is. As you know, I mentioned about how people are coming into Knit City. They're coming into Vancouver this week, showing up in town and everything like that. And so one of the folks that came into town a little bit early was Robin, who you will see on the chat here today. Robin is one of our moderators in the school, and she hosts our get-togethers. Every Monday, she hosts the Crafternoon meetups. And so these are meetups that happen on Zoom. They've been happening for years now. And Robin hosts a group of members who come and spend some time together on a Monday. Robin's also continued on, and she is also now hosting our multi-craftual meetups as well, and she is helping me host the weaving meetups on Monday evenings as well sometimes. And so it's been absolutely wonderful to have Robin host these meetings. She's a wonderful host. She's very, very warm, very encouraging, brings people together, makes people feel really relaxed and comfortable. And I'm so glad to have her do this job. And so she came in this week early to Vancouver to visit the studio. And unbeknownst to me, I did not know that any of these things were happening, but she brought me this. And I think that maybe some of you in the chat might recognize some of these things. But basically, this is a blanket that was made by all the folks who attend that Monday crafternoon. Many of the members of the school helped to make this knitted squares that came together to make this blanket. And so I wanted it to be on video. I wanted it to be recorded. I wanted to thank you all so much for this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful gift, including this one here as well. Thank you so much. I have here Robin, Kathleen, Brenda, Norma, Pearl, Lauren, Star, Maureen, and Louise, and Pam. Thank you so much for putting this together. I was very, very moved and very, very touched by this amazing gift. So I can't believe that you guys worked on this in secret. I had no idea. And I said, it was funny that these crafternoons are not recorded. So I did not know that you guys were all working on this um, behind the scenes. So I really, really appreciate this. It's absolutely wonderful. And it's actually the perfect time because today is like the first day that it's actually quite cold in Vancouver and it's about to start raining. It's going to rain for the next week. It's been so nice in Vancouver lately, but it's getting into that time where it's going to be raining, it's going to be cold, and this is going to be my blanket that is going to keep me warm for literally everything. So, thank you so much. Yes, Robin saying I am sneaky. Yes. Yes. So that is what I wanted to mention about how amazing and awesome this community is. And so, if you are new here inside the school, I do really encourage you to with connect with the folks who are here inside as members of the school because they are all wonderful and warm and encouraging and super supportive, and it's just a great place to be. So, in this section of our session, I just wanted to quickly share with you where you can find the community. Okay, because there are a couple of places where you can find everybody now. So, the first one being that we have a space that is dedicated just for SOS members. And so you can see that if you go to community in the website and then go to the SOS community forums, you will find this. Okay, and so this is the space where you can ask questions about your courses. You can ask questions to teachers. You can specifically use the at symbol and basically tag your instructor. And many of the instructors are keeping up with the forums and you will get a response. And, Vicky and Robin are in the forums and they are checking messages and making sure that nobody is sort of left hanging. So, if you ever have any questions about anything that you're running into in the school, about the courses, about the content, please be sure to check out the community forums there. So you'll find that it's schoolofsweetgeorgia.com/community is where that is. And then earlier this year, about June, we opened up a new area. It's a new area in order so that we could sort of take advantage of a mobile app function that this has. And it is a new space that is on an app called Circle. So, as an SOS member, you have access to this new community space that we are building. And all you need to do is go to schoolofsweetgeorgia.com/circle. Just make sure that you're logged into the website and then go here and it will send you to Circle and assign you access and then you're able to access everything on that Circle community. Okay, and so in that Circle community you'll be able to see that we've created all of these different spaces and there are specific spaces just for SOS members as well. So I'll give you a quick little look at what that space looks like inside. This is what the circle space looks like. This is the Sweet Georgia community space. This Sweet Georgia community is actually open to everybody, not just SOS members, but we also make it available to anybody who's ever joined the Secret Stash Club that we host at Sweet Georgia, and anybody in sort of the making community who wants to join. You are more than welcome to join this. This is a paid and private community and everything like that, but this subscription is included as part of your SOS membership. So you can see here, there's a bit of like a feed of the things that people have been working on, things that people are making. So it's a really, really lovely space to share because everything, there's Meg's socks. Very cute. I love it. Um, yeah, it's just a wonderful space to sort of share what you're working on, ask questions, because this space is for sort of conversations that may or may not be related to the school content. So if you've kind of taken a tangent off of the school content, or you're learning something new or exploring something else, you are more than welcome to post in this space. So you can see we have, we'll post events that are coming up. We'll post make alongs that are coming up. Like right now, we're doing the crepe yarn. We have other ones coming up. So November we have Winterful Weave Along coming up, and then December we're going to do some holiday stuff. And you can talk about all the different crafts that you're interested in this area. And then we have some other sections here for school members. So this is also what we are building out. So this is the Sweet Georgia community, and this is the SOS community forums. So just to give you an idea of what the two different spaces are like. Okay. So that is what I wanted to kind of just clarify for anybody who is new here. So those are the two spaces. And yeah, I'll have more to share about the events that we have where we can actually connect and meet. Yeah, and if you guys ever have any questions about the community, please do feel free to message me. But we do have a number of upcoming events that where you can meet and chat other people who are in the school. So let's quickly talk about the latest updates. And this is basically the new courses that have come out or are about to come out. And so the most recent class that is launched is the machine knitting class with Barb. Now, Barb is doing a series of machine knitting classes with us. And this is the first one. So in this first one, Barb is teaching things like how to set up your machine, how to cast on, multiple ways of casting on, how to add weights to your fabric so it doesn't fall off the machine, how to increase stitches, how to decrease stitches, just basic shaping, learning to do some tension swatches, those kinds of things. It can actually get you quite far. So this machine knitting basics class has a number of patterns that are attached to this. So you can knit a shawl. You can basically knit what I'm wearing here, but you can knit something a little bit more complex. You can make a bias shawl. You can make a bias scarf. You can make one with eyelets. It's kind of like the beginnings of lace. I'm knitting that one right now, hoping to be done by tomorrow. And yeah, so this is the very first class. If you have ever been sort of intrigued about machine knitting and how it all works, you can have a peek and check that out. And if you happen to be coming to Knit City, we will have one of these machines on display, and we'll demo, and you can have a feel for what that's all like. Yeah, we're really, really encouraging people to give this a try because it is amazing. And then you'll be able to make things relatively quickly, and it's very satisfying. It's a different feeling, obviously, than hand knitting, but it's very satisfying to be able to produce the fabric and feel the yarn and see the colors come together. And like the one that Greta is wearing here in this photo is it's just all like light and hazy and mohairy and fuzzy, and it's just like air. So lots of different ways of enjoying and playing with yarn. So we have a number of these LK150 machines at our studio too. So if you were interested in picking one up, we will have them at the show, and you can also come to the studio and get one of these as well. So that is our machine knitting class. I do encourage you guys to check that out if you have not yet. Check that out. And then the next one that is coming is the circular sock machine class. So this CSM class is our first class on circular sock knitting. It's going to come out at the beginning of October for Socktober. And you can see there, I am going to be using my Erlbacher Speedster knitting machine. Of course, if you have a different kind of CSM, you can still use the course because hopefully a lot of the concepts are very common throughout. No matter what kind of machine you're using, the concept behind it is very much the same. But my goal with this is that hopefully I can show you really up close, what is happening. I can the trouble with sometimes with the CSM learning is that there's so many things that you need to notice, and it's very hard for me to show you unless you're looking right over my shoulder and we're looking at the same thing. So by offering this class in this way, I can get really, really up close and show you exactly what I need you to see and exactly where the tiniest little metal latch needs to be, what the position of everything needs to be in order for all of this to work. So this was really our goal, is to produce a very, very clear class that would allow you to make a whole bunch of stockinette socks to get started. So you can see here, these are many of the socks that I have cranked on that circular sock knitting machine. Some of them are hand dyed self striping yarn. Some of them are just regular hand dyed yarn. Some of them are stripes that I created. So we learn all of these different techniques, from how to do the tension swatch to make the right size sock. We do heels and toes, like the shaping of heels and toes on the actual machine. We change colors and make stripes. We also do a mock rib sock. So we take some needles out of the cylinder so that way we can make a mock rib sock. So I teach all of those in this particular class. And yeah, very, very excited to share that with you. As sort of a combination with this course coming out, I did an interview with Grace and Erlbacher from Erlbacher Knitting Machines, and that podcast episode is going to go live on October the 1st, for this October. And so we chat a little bit about the history of this machine, where her dad was coming from when he wanted to create this machine. And yeah, it's very, very interesting, their entire history, and also the community that's around this. Again, community in this particular craft is very warm, very encouraging, and it's a nice place to be. So yeah, I encourage you guys to check that out too. Even if you don't have a CSM, maybe you might want to think about that. So let's talk a little bit about upcoming events. Like I have mentioned a couple of times, we do have Socktober in October. And so Socktober is basically a time where we just celebrate knitting socks, or you could crochet socks too. I don't know how to crochet socks, but I know that many of our members do know how to crochet socks. That could be a thing. But yes, knitting your own socks, something that you can try in October. If you've never knit socks before, we have lots of different courses for knitting socks. Everything from knitting top down, knitting from the bottom up, knitting on two at a time on one giant long pair of circular knitting needles. You can knit two at a time. Lots of different ways of knitting socks. And then, of course, we have this circular sock machine as well. So lots of things that we can do in October, just celebrating socks and sock yarn and knitting socks and making socks by hand. So that is all going to be happening very, very soon. And then I wanted to give you a heads up about November. So last November, we started this new thing that is called the Winterful Weave Along. And the whole goal of this particular weave along is that we can celebrate weaving. We can celebrate weaving no matter what kind of loom you have. This is one of the fundamental principles that we talked about when we wanted to start this school, is the idea of being equipment agnostic in a lot of ways. So we're not super fussed if you want to use a 4-shaft loom or if you prefer a rigid heddle loom. We think that you can enjoy weaving in all different ways. And so um, earlier this year, we came out with a course that was about plaids and stripes and tartans. And so you can see that sort of scarf in the back here. I was weaving that on my 4-shaft counterbalance loom. It's wonderful. It's woven in a 2-2 twill, which is very traditional for a lot of tartan fabric. Um, but for November, when we do this Winterful Weave Along, we wanted to weave this pattern and this sort of tartan style kind of scarf, but we wanted to include anybody who also wanted to weave plain weave on a rigid heddle loom, or even if you want to weave plain weave on your 4-shaft loom, you can do that too. So we have this Pacific plaid pattern available as a 4-shaft pattern, and then we also made a second pattern called the Shoreline Scarf pattern that is for rigid heddle loom. And so there's a couple of differences here. The first difference being that we changed the yarn. So in the yarn in the tartan style one, we were using the Knoll. I have a picture of it. We're using the Knoll Merino lamb's wool. So this is a finer yarn. And I think we were doing 20 ends per inch, I think was our set for that one. I think, yeah, it was 20 ends per inch. So it's a little bit finer. It's a little bit thinner, but we also wanted to give the option of working with a little bit of a thicker yarn for a rigid heddle loom, because 20 ends per inch is kind of hard to do on a rigid heddle loom. You can do it, but I think it's better if we did this other yarn. So the other yarn that we're doing is we decided to use our new yarn, which is the Trifecta Fine yarn. So this is the Trifecta Fine. Trifecta Fine is actually, this is the one that I'm wearing right now. And it is a mix of Blueface Leicester and mohair, like very fine, soft mohair, not fuzzy mohair, but like smooth, sleek kind of mohair, and then silk. And so those three things blended together are, for me, trifecta. It's like the best three fibers mixed together. And so we're using this yarn. It is untreated, so it actually does the thing that we really want woven fabric to do, which is to full, right? We want to be able to wash it and have it kind of meld together a little bit. And so these are the scarves that are going to be woven for that winterful weave along. This is one, and this is the other. So thank you, Greta. Greta wove these. Oh, yes, Greta is confirming that the Knoll yarn, the merino lamb's wool, was woven at 20 ends per inch, and this Trifecta Fine is woven at 12 ends per inch. But you can still see how drapey and warm and wonderful this is going to be. It is drapey at 12 ends per inch in plain weave on a rigid heddle loom. And so Greta wove these. You can see that all of these sort of Trompes Rit blocks are here. So you can see it making that plaid tartan style effect. And of course, you can choose whatever colors you want. But this is like actually a very nice, very good length scarf. It's actually a nice length for a scarf. And then there's a second version here because you can put a pretty long warp on your loom. And instead of doing the plaid blocks through the main part of the scarf, she just wove a big giant stripe. So I mean, you weave one weft color for the majority of this, and then you'll get a striped look to your scarf. And then she put the blocks at the ends. So if you wrap this, you get the effect of all of your nice blocks at the end of your scarf. So that is what is coming up in November. So we just wanted to kind of give you guys the heads up. So there's a bunch of different colors. You can mix and match, create your own different palette, of course, or weave your own tartan. I know many of you guys might have family tartans already named for you. And I think Robin was weaving one that was her family tartan. I think Joseph might be weaving one that was his family's tartan. So that would be really, really fun. I don't have a tartan, so that's why I made these patterns, because I was like, I would like one for myself too. Yeah, so that is what is coming up. So you can see a nice big picture here of the Pacific Plaid one that we did. I mean, this is actually not a tartan because I did not use the same colors. I was just experimenting and playing with a variety of different colors to sort of make things pop a little bit more. But if you do want it to be exactly like a plaid, then you would use the same colors in your weft as you did in your warp. Okay, so this is the close-up of that shoreline plaid scarf on the rigid heddle. You can see it's plain weave. You can see it's a little bit of a thicker yarn, 12 ends per inch. And yes, I will give all of these detailed information in November. Yes, you can get Knoll yarn here in Germany because it is from the UK. We bring the yarn in from the UK. I absolutely love this yarn. I used it ages ago in the Weaving Four Shaft Twill study group. I love it. But you can see we actually have a page that Vicky has recently updated, and it is sweetgeorgiayarns.com/winterful weave along, and the details are actually all there already. And I just wanted to give you guys a heads up about that. So, what else is coming up? What else is coming up? Yes. I did mention this before. Knit City is this coming weekend. And so, yes, hopefully you will be able to come and visit us at the show and come to that SOS meetup as well. And so, we're going to be posting the schedule of all of our demos on social media very, very soon. I'm hoping to do that today, but we have demos almost every hour on the hour. So just come by the lounge if you are interested in seeing some of the things that we are working on. We'll have fiber prep demos, we're bringing blending boards, we are bringing looms, we are bringing spinning wheels, we are bringing e-spinners, just everything. Just everything. Now, this is what I was meaning to talk about earlier is about our calendar of events. And so you can see that we have lots and lots of times where you can meet and connect with the community in the School of Sweet Georgia. So the first one, like I was mentioning, Mondays, there is a crafternoon that is hosted by Robin. And so all of these ones in pink are basically just very casual meetup times. Crafternoon with Robin, crafternoon with Robin. Sundays, there is a community led crafternoon. So, someone in our community will sort of open the Zoom call, and at this moment in time, everybody can kind of like join in. Again, that happens on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. When you look at the community calendar, it will show up in your time zone, whatever time it is for you. So for me, it would be 5 o'clock. If you were in, say, Toronto, it would show up at 8 o'clock at night, so on. The green meeting times are sort of like more topic focused times. So we have one meeting time where we talk more about weaving, specifically about weaving. And then there's another meeting time where Greta will talk specifically about fiber prep. So many of the people who come to Greta's meeting are talking about blending boards, they're talking about preparing fiber, washing fleece, um, spinning spinning different fiber preps, all of these kinds of things. So that happens at Greta's meeting. And so the weaving meeting and the fiber prep meeting are both recorded, and you'll be able to find the previous meetings, the recordings of the previous meetings on our website. They are all archived there. And then Thursdays, the last Thursday of every month, we do this meeting, which is the live office hours. And then on Friday, we have a session at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is called the Quiet Co-working Session. And so on that session, all the folks will join up on Zoom, and they might join like 5 minutes early and chat a little bit about what they are going to be working on that day. But then for the next hour, everybody goes on mute, but they're still on the meeting, but everyone is on mute so that they can just be working and they know that other people are working next to them. And you are actually very, very productive when you're there in a room with people who are also working very productively. There's something about that feeling of working next to someone that just keeps you going. And so that we found that actually to be very, very effective in getting things done, things that you maybe have been putting off or procrastinating. Like maybe you have to weave in a whole bunch of ends, or maybe you have to seam a garment or something like that. You're like, yes, I can do it during that time. So that's a good time to meet up as well. And then 10 a.m. Second Friday of every month, I do a live stream on YouTube called Taking Back Friday. And so that is where we just talk about everything that's happening for Sweet Georgia and all the yarn side of things. And the second Saturday of every month, usually, we open the studio in Vancouver, and folks from around the community can come into the studio and sort of have like a knitting meetup there. And you are more than welcome to join if you are ever in Vancouver around that time. Come, and Charlotte is typically there, Hoy is typically there, and they open the doors and are just hanging out. I think the last time I popped in, Hoy was felting animals. He was doing all his amazing needle felting there, and Charlotte is always knitting or crocheting. So it's a very, very warm and friendly bunch. So you're more than welcome to come to any of these events. Now, we had a question that popped up in the forums, in the SOS forums. And so this is from Paige. And Paige is working on the course that is the multi-shaft weaving basics class. So you can see this is a project that is in that class. And this multi-shaft weaving class, this is sort of based on my very first experiences learning how to use a table loom, a 4-shaft table loom. So I learned to weave here in Vancouver from an amazing, wonderful weaving instructor, Irene Weisner. And this was very similar to the first project that I ever worked on there. So it's basically dress a loom with about 80 warp ends, and then they are threaded in a way where you can mix and match different colors, and then you try different treadling patterns or you lift patterns to produce a whole bunch of different fabrics. So you can see here that there's a little bit of plain weave in this sampler. There's a bit of it of tutu twill. There's some basket weave. This is some twill that's kind of zigzagging. This is also just tutu twill, but because of the colors, the way that they are laid in, there's just a lot of different color effects. So there's a lot of experimentation that happens in this particular class. Now, Paige has just started this class, and she was looking at the pattern and trying to figure out how to read the pattern. So she says, do you read this chart? Or I'll show you in a second. It's the weaving draft. Do you weave the chart left to right or right to left? I understand that you measure the warp in that order. Do you cut the yarn off each time? If so, do you tie a knot on the peg and start the next color? So I'll show you first. This is the weaving draft of that particular pattern. So you can see how it kind of works. We have here, is that 30 ends? And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So basically we have like all these ends are one color. And then we have 4 ends of brown, we have 4 ends of gold, 4 ends of brown, 4 ends of gold, and so on. And then here, I typically hold one gold strand and one whatever color, the dark. So one light, one dark, hold the 2 strands together, and then wind a warp for all of these. So when you're dressing the loom, I typically work reading from right to left. And I think that that's because I'm right handed. So I work from right to left. Now, depending on what kind of loom you have, if you have a table loom, that should be no problem. If you have something like a floor loom where halfway through you have a, a post which prevents your heddles from sliding all the way across, then you'll probably need to count how many heddles are needed for the right side of your project and how many are needed for the left side of your project. So I would typically say if this is I don't know. If it's supposed to be 80 ends all the way across, and then I would count 40, and I would need to divide that over the 4 shafts here. So I would need 10, 10 heddles on each shaft on the right side of my loom. All right. And then I would start from there and I would thread all of my heddles from right to the middle and then from the middle to the left. Now, in this question, I believe Vicky was also saying that sometimes what she'll do is she'll divide her weaving draft in half and she'll thread from the middle out. So she'll thread from the middle left and then from the middle right. But I think that my brain just works in one direction. So I count how many heddles are needed on the right, and then I start on the right, and then I sort of thread across in that way. And so there are also other videos that we have from Laura Fry where she teaches you how to thread the heddles very, very efficiently and very ergonomically and all that kind of stuff. But yes, I thread basically from the right to the left. And then the question about, there is a question about winding the warp and winding a warp. And do you cut the yarn off each time? Do you tie a knot in the peg and start the next color? I think it ultimately really depends. And so typically how I wind a warp now is that you can see this is my little warping board. This is a 4.5 yard warping board from Shacked, and I have it clamped to my table at the bottom here. And I'm using these 2 pegs as my cross. Okay. So I consider this sort of the top of my warping board. And then I consider this last peg the bottom of my warping board. So at the top of my warping board where there's this cross, this is where I want everything to be nice and smooth. I don't want to have any knots or anything like that in this area, because this is the part that is going to go onto the loom first. And it's going to go, I rough slay a reed and it gets wound onto the back beam. I don't want any knots in this area. So I keep all my knots to the bottom here. So I start my first yarn down here on the last peg, and then I wind this and do the cross here and come back. And so that up and down is sort of two warp ends, right? And so anytime I need to make color changes, I make all my color changes at this bottom peg. So you can see I have a couple of knots here. And because this is going to be the last part that goes onto the loom, it's going to be the part where I can either, untie those knots at the end of the day, or I can cut them off. And that's what I'm going to tie onto the front apron rod of my loom. So it's not really that big a deal if there's knots down here. Now, the question about whether or not you cut the yarn each time, it really depends on how wide your stripe is. If it's like two warp ends and then change color, two warp ends and then change color, then I just kind of tie the yarn, or like loop the yarn, wind the yarn around the last peg a little bit just to hold it in place while I measure the other color, and then I will unwind it and then use the color A and then switch to color B. If it's a really wide stripe, like say you're doing 10 ends or 20 ends of one color, then I will cut the yarn and then tie a knot and then start again. Um, and then, like I said, if it is something like this, holding one of each color together, holding those two together, I would just hold those two colors together and wind them at the same time. So hopefully that is a little bit helpful, just to get you started with winding that particular project. Yeah, I'd be curious if anybody does it differently from how I've mentioned here. Um, Fantastic. So good luck with that page. I hope that that works out for you. Now, let's share a few of the things that you guys have been working on. So, one of the first things that we always, always, always want to celebrate is we want to celebrate everybody's first handspun. And this is Nicole's first handspun, which is amazing. It is absolutely wonderful. She says, "This is my first attempt at spinning my own yarn. I'm really enjoying this craft and excited to continue to learn and improve my skill set. This is a 2-ply yarn made using Corriedale top, ended up being a light worsted weight. It looks so nice. It's consistent. The plying looks great. Yeah, it's a fantastic start. And I think um, that she's going to be knitting something with it soon. But that is very, very first handspun. So if you get a chance to go onto the SOS community forums, I do encourage you to visit and send her some encouragement. That looks fantastic, Nicole. Thank you for sharing. And we also have Louise. Louise, last month, we talked about how Louise was spinning her very first yarn. And then this month, she did something with it. So she says, "I'm not a knitter, but somebody gave me this simple pattern to make with my spun yarn. And this has worked. This is my little creation. I feel like it has taken me months to do this, but now on to the next lesson." That's awesome. So these are some of my favorite things ever. Like, I have knit ribbed fingerless mitts like this before too, and I love them during the winter. So this is a great thing to have made with your handspun, because then you get to look at them, you get to feel the yarn. It's fantastic. We have more spinning things to share. And so this is actually Charlotte. Charlotte works at the studio. She's been with us like for a long, long, long time. And Charlotte does all the crafts. Charlotte does everything. Charlotte has taught our crochet classes. She's taught our felting classes. She is dyeing at the studio, and she also knits. She's crocheter and she spins. She's been in one of the spinning classes with Kim McKenna. But last year, we did a bit of a challenge to spin gradient yarn. So that is to take like a hand painted braid and then break it up into different colors. And then either we're blending them together to make rollags, or we're carding them, or we're prepping them in some way to make a gradient yarn. And so Charlotte started this in 2024. yeah, October 2024. And then she was making this gradient yarn. You can see that she took her braid of fiber, broke it up into the different colors, blended them all on a blending board, made all different rolags, and then because she wanted to do it as a traditional 3-ply, she made three series like of these rolags. Um, and this is, I think, her first bobbin, and then these are the rolags that she had to spin for like the next bobbin. And so it's taken some time. I mean, I think that this is something to definitely appreciate, that the crafts that we are doing are slow crafts. They take time, and that is perfectly okay. And I think it's really nice to be able to see the entire progression of Charlotte's spinning. So she worked on this for the past year, and now she has this gradient yarn. 370 meters is about 400 yards, I think it is. So it's like a fingering weight sort of yarn. And she's asking what she can do with this beautiful gradient yarn now. So that's her 3-ply. You can see that's plied very nicely. It's nice and consistent. It's beautiful. Turned out amazing. And so Charlotte's just asking for suggestions on what she should knit with this. Maybe add another solid color for a 2-color shawl. But that is the chat where that is all happening on the SOS forums. But congratulations, Charlotte. That's a gorgeous, beautiful yarn. And we have more spinning. This one is Greta, and Greta is here on the chat as well. Greta has actually been working on this article here, and it's called "Start Spinning Sock Yarn." And she was looking at she's comparing a number of different ways of spinning yarn. And so, like the fiber that I was showing you earlier, I was spinning this apple picking colorway. This is our secret stash colorway for Sweet Georgia. And we use the trifecta yarn, or the trifecta blend fiber. And so Greta was kind of comparing a little bit to the trifecta fine yarn that we have that is spun from the same blend, but it's a commercial yarn. So here there's actually a photo of 3 different yarns side by side. And so this yarn on the very left, you can see it's very textured here. This yarn is an opposing ply yarn. Okay. This is also taught in Rachel Smith's class, the Spin to Knit Socks class, opposing plies. And then in the middle here is the commercially spun trifecta fine. It's a 3-ply yarn that's a fingering weight yarn. And then on the right-hand side here, this is the 3-ply crepe yarn. So very similar to the one that I spun here. And so you can find her observations in the article here. It's actually on the Sweet Georgia website here. And then she's going to be using the custom toe-up sock recipe from Tabitha Hedrick's class that we have on the school here to basically knit these into socks. So she said her yarns are about sport to DK weight, which is basically the same as what I have here. This ended up being about DK weight. Yes. So it'll be really cool to see how, the one fiber can become all these different things. You use it with, oh, yes, Greta's just linked to Rachel's class right there. Yes. But yeah, it's very interesting to see how one fiber, dyed in one way, you can make it become so many different things, different structures, different feel, just by the decisions that you make about how to spin it, how to apply it, how much twist to add, how much, just all of these little minute decisions affect what you get at the end of the day, how it feels, how it'll last, how it'll wear. And so currently, Greta is working on a 4-ply cabled yarn. And so she's going to be adding commercial yarn as markers in between the singles for the different bobbins. So yes, she's saying she spins all of her singles to one bobbin before rewinding. That's what I do as well. I'm currently spinning a 3-ply. It's going to be 3-ply traditional yarn using the Cordale top in a brand new colorway, I might I might mention. And yeah, so a 3-ply Cordale. And what I do is I spin all of one ply to the bobbin, and then I add like a short length of just bright white undyed fiber as a little bit of a delimiter. And then I know that that's the breaking point between the different plies. And I spin the second ply, I add a chunk of white, and spin the third ply, and then I will let it rest for a bit, and then I rewind each ply onto a separate bobbin. And so I'll end up with 3 storage bobbins with singles and then ply those together. And so Greta's doing a very, very similar thing, but with a 4-ply cable yarn. So yes, I wanted to show you. I don't know if Bridget is here, if I'm allowed to do this. Yes, I'll do it. So yes, I am spinning different colors and that we are putting together. We actually, you get a little sneak peek, but we came up with 5 new colorways for spinning fiber that we're going to be coming out with very, very shortly. We'll have them at Knit City this weekend on a couple of the fiber bases, but I am spinning one of them right now. It happens to be on Corriedale, and then I have 2 others to show you. This one here is all blues and purples. And Bridget's here. I hope it's okay. I'm showing these. And then this one here is it's like rusts and oranges and golds with teals and navy. I absolutely love this one. But we wanted to come up with a series of colors. This was actually inspired by someone in the Sweet Georgia community who left us some feedback, who wanted to see some more blue kind of colors in our fiber colorways. And I also personally wanted to see a few more brighter colorways, something that was a little bit more poppy. Because one of the things that we talk about with spinning is that your final yarn can only be as bright and as vibrant as what you start with. And so if you start with something muted, by the time you spin all those colors, they get mixed and blended and blended and blended. And then the yarn that you end up with at the end of the day is going to be much more muted and subdued than what you started with. So even if this looks high contrast and poppy and bold and everything, by the time you spin it down, it will become much, much, much more muted. Um, and so I wanted us to start with colors that were much more vibrant so that we had the chance to subdue them as much or as little as we want. So these are just a couple of the fibers that we have prepared. I also really wanted to name them after spots in Canada, all across Canada, that I have wonderful, wonderful, wonderful memories about. And I will for sure be sharing this over the Taking Back Friday that we're going to be doing in a couple of weeks. I'll show you more and talk more about the different colors and the names and where they come from and all of those kinds of things. But this is just a little sneak peek into just a couple of the ones that are coming. But I have 3 more to show you too when that all happens. So, thank you, Greta, for sharing your spinning. And I want to encourage everybody to check out that article. Greta's doing a lot of spinning and a lot of research. Now we have more to share. Here is, like we talked about, we were doing the stranded sweater knit along. And one of the stranded sweaters that we were working on was also the Oh Dearie Me sweater. And I did encourage anybody who maybe didn't feel like they wanted to tackle a whole sweater to still, if you want to make a hat, if you want to make the mitts, whatever you want to make, we're just celebrating sort of stranded color work because I love knitting with the 2 colors in hand. And so this is a really, really lovely mitten project by Norma Jean. And you can see here the Oh Dearie Me mitts that were designed by Caitlin Shepard. And so for this one, she used the Ginger Snap Yak sock for the main color. And then she also has a Sweet Georgia Tough Love sock for the contrasting colors here. Looks absolutely fantastic. I love, Bridget knows this, I love a grello sort of color combination. So gray and yellow color combination is one of my favorites. So yeah, they look fantastic. So thank you so much for sharing. I'm glad that you finished your mitts. And then why don't we celebrate another stranded sweater that came out of that entire knit along? And that is Greta's Falling Leaves sweater. This is absolutely amazing. You can sort of, if you've been in the school for the past couple of months, or you've been in the community and you've seen sort of Greta's progress through this sweater, it's been wonderful. You can watch her do everything from, her initial spinning, the initial calculations on how much yardage was required for the yoke, and then deciding what colors to put in the yoke, and then deciding, that she knit a sample, a swatch, and discovered that maybe she didn't get the amount of contrast that she wanted. So then she respun all of the yarn for the yoke and then reworked this whole thing so that she could get it, tweak it to get it exactly how she wanted it to be. And so this sweater turned out beautifully. Like, it's gorgeous. And these photos are wonderful. I think Bridget took the photos, and this is Greta's sweater. So congratulations on your finish. It looks fantastic. Really, really lovely. We had Anita at the studio also finish her falling leaves. She was wearing it yesterday. So maybe you will see a bunch of these sweaters this weekend at Knit City. And the very last one that I wanted to share here is a reminder, if you have not yet sort of discovered the learning plan section of the community forums, I do encourage you to go check that out. So this is Kira, who is a relatively new member. She has started her learning plan, I believe, last month, and we also mentioned this. And Kira has detailed out all of the different crafts that she wants to work on and all of her different goals. And then as she's moving through the weeks, she updates her learning plan to show like what is the progress that she's made on each of these items. And she's done it in a very interesting way where she's kind of like copying and pasting her previous post and then adding notes to it, and then adding different colors to differentiate like what's going on, sort of the status of what's happening. And it is a really, really wonderful way of keeping track of sort of how she's doing. And so this is one of the things that I always encourage everybody to do, is that when you come into the school, I know that what we're doing here is a multi-craftual thing. I know that we are wanting to weave and spin and dye and machine knit and do all the things, and we just want to do everything, and it can become very, very overwhelming. Um, and even the number of classes that you want to watch, it can become very overwhelming. And so the thing that I encourage everybody to do is to sort of sit down and write out everything that you want to work on, everything that you want to learn, all of your goals, just kind of brain dump all of that out so that you have it in front of you. And then once you have this idea of what it is you want to do, then you can very sort of deliberately and intentionally decide, what am I going to work on first? What will I work on after? And just tackle one thing at a time, because that's the challenge of being a multi-craftual maker. You want to do all the things, and then you get overwhelmed, and then you don't do anything. And so that's a very frustrating sort of cycle to be in. So we really, really encourage everybody to just figure out all the things that interest you, all the things that you're curious about, all the things you want to try, and then very slowly go through it and just bite it off, like one bite at a time, one bite at a time. Okay. You will get there. Absolutely. You'll get there. You'll learn all the things, just one step at a time. And so I just wanted to encourage you to check out Kira's fantastic learning plan. Here are her gorgeous weaving. These are the Spring at the Cabin tea towels designed by Jane Stafford. They look absolutely fantastic. So fun. There's some log cabin in there, some stripes, the color and weave. Looks like really, really fun towels. But yeah, I encourage you to create a learning plan if you have not already, and then maybe get some inspiration from someone else's learning plan, or provide some encouragement for somebody who has already written one. So that is it. Thank you so much, Kira, for sharing your learning plan with us and all the things that you're working on, and for keeping it up to date as well. So that is basically it for today. Thank you guys so much for being here today. Thank you for being here on the chat. I'm looking forward to seeing many of you guys this weekend at Knit City. But if I don't see you there, I mean, I will see you hopefully inside the SOS forums or inside the circle community, and maybe on another one of our meetups in the coming weeks. But thank you so much for being part of the school. I'm really, really excited to see all of the energy and all of the enthusiasm, everyone sharing their projects inside the community, and encouraging and inspiring everybody along the way. Thank you guys all for being here. I will see you all soon, and I'll see you in the next one. All right. Bye for now.